And I'm just going to give the context here, Romans chapter 8, we're leading up to verse 32. This is the great chain of redemption. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, so that he would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. Well, that's in italics. And these whom he predestined, he also called. These whom he called, he also justified. And these whom he justified, he also glorified. What shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who is against us? Okay, so the very important point here is who's the us as we move into the next few verses. What shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who is against us? He who did not spare his own Son, but delivered him over for us all, how will he not also with him freely give us all things? So it's very important. Let's read the next verse. Who will bring charges against God's elect? So who's the us? Verse 31, verse 32. Paul tells you it's the elect. Okay? The elect is whom God delivered his own Son over for in verse 32. Who is the one who condemns? Christ Jesus is he who died, but rather was raised, who is at the right hand of God, who also intercedes for us. Again, in this context, we have in the context a direct connection between the chain of redemption and the extent of the atonement. Direct connection being given here. Who is the us all throughout the 30s here? It's the elect. Paul tells you very clearly in verse 33. Who will bring charges against God's elect? Okay? That is the whole point of this passage. And that's a very strong argument. And I wanted to go through, there was an article that Dr. David Allen wrote to try to answer this argument.
That the us in 31 and 32 is the elect of God in 33.
Yeah.
And therefore, at the end of verse 34, and this ties it all together. So this is absolutely, Dr. Allen says, my exegesis is indefensible. I say to you, it is without question. It is without question that the us and the elect of God is consistent over only, depending on how you punctuate this. 4 sentences? Look what's at the end of verse 34. Who is the one condemning? Christ Jesus, the one who died, rather the one who was raised, who also is at the right hand of God, who also is interceding, huper haimon, in our behalf. And he says Schreiner captures the meaning of verse 32 well.
Yeah, this is it.
The main point of the verse is clear. Believers can face the day of judgment with confidence for those whom God has chosen for his own. Ding, 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 ding. That word just seems to... Remember, what Alan has done is he's already suggested that that's shorthand for those who have, by their own free will, chosen God. So God does... Man-centered, God-centered, massive difference. Those whom God has chosen for his own will certainly not be accused in the day of judgment. God has declared them to be right in his sight, and thus those who would accuse believers will not successfully establish their case. Notice again Allen's words. Notice Schreiner says the verse speaks of believers and nowhere imports the idea of the predestined as such.
Yeah.
Did you read what you quoted? It's right there. No, leave it up. Look. The main point of the verse is clear. Believers, now remember, Allen is dragging free will into that, which Schreiner's not. believers can face the day of judgment with confidence for those whom God has chosen for his own. Where do those words go? They get filtered out by tradition. He says it right there, but he doesn't hear it. They are believers because God chose them for his own. So how can you say nowhere imports the idea of the predestined as such? The text says those whom God chose for his own. The text says the elect of God. It's right there on the papyri, but not in David Allen's mind. This is why I simply state to you, Allen failed to the 100th point in offering any kind of meaningfully textually based interpretation. It's stunning.